to Morgan Entrikin and everyone at Grove, G. Hottinson, Deb Seeger, John Mark Bowling, my wonderful editor, Peter Blackstock, Nicole Nyan. You guys have just treated me so well, and for a freelance journalist to be treated well, to be paid on time, and to not have to do what you say, but for it to actually be a choice was a luxury beyond. I just felt like a reluctant diva. You know, so I want to say thank you to Grove, but I want to say thank you to some dear friends who put some very shrewd eyes on this book for me early on, like Sarah Burns, Chase Hanahan, Maria Stryer, Mark Lydorf, Jeffrey Golick, and then there were others further down the line. Your read on this book and the feedback you gave me helped me make it a better book with deeper characters. So I just want to thank you guys so much for that, as well as for your friendship. And I want to thank Gays Against Guns, on which I didn't exhausting and left me with the sexy Brenda Caro, but it's been really wonderful. It's been a great summer so far. So I will read. I think of the book as sort of a big, lumpy, drawn-out soap opera, and I actually don't really think there are a lot of sections that hold up well to be read. I'm going to read this section that Pause Magazine was so generously excerpted, and I was so proud to have it excerpted in Pause, which is a magazine that means so much to me, that really gave this girl a chance. Why, I don't know. We used to call it the island of misfit editors and writers, but we had a good time there, and so they ran this excerpt, and this is what I'm going to read. And just really quickly, the book has two timelines. It starts the weekend before 9/11, and a sort of young, sort of affluent couple in the East Village who live in Christodora have a few years before adopted a little boy whose mother died of AIDS in the very early 90s. So there are two timelines. There's one timeline that starts there and moves forward into the near future, and it's about that family. And there's another timeline that starts in 1981, which is the year that AIDS, the epidemic, was identified in New York and LA, and a lot of that timeline is about his mother, Isabel Mendez, who finds her way, who is diagnosed with HIV, and then who finds her way to activism, and particularly to a leader in the activist movement named Hector. So this is not the first night actually, but it's the second night that they meet. The rain had already pooled so deeply off the curb that Izzy was about to step into it in her sandal up to her ankle. And by the way, I'm not going to try to recreate any of the various New York accents in this book, as tempting as it is, because there are a lot. And I've already heard the audio version, and some of these characters sound like they came off the boat 4 days ago. Had already pooled so deeply off the curb that Izzy was about to step into it in her sandal up to her ankle when Ricky, his bag of flyers already wet, went, "Whoa, girl," and sort of lifted her from the waist, so she missed the big puddle. They were leaving the diner where they'd gone to eat after the big meeting. Her, Hector, this guy, Ricky, who was obviously his boyfriend, and a guy named Corey who really didn't look good. She had stood alongside Hector throughout the rambunctious meeting, a bit overwhelmed and dazed, but also strangely relieved and safe. And then when it adjourned, Hector, and she could tell that Hector was a big shot here, had introduced her to a bunch of women, some of them Latinas, but most of them looking like lesbianas. And before she knew it, she was on a committee to try to get the federal definition of AIDS expanded to include more symptoms that only women have, like not getting your periods regularly. That had been happening to her. And after Hector had said, "Come on, we're getting something to eat at Joe Jr., come with us." So she had, sitting there with a bowl of tomato soup and a grilled cheese, while the guys talked mainly about a Chinese drug and whether you could take it for AIDS or not, because Corey wanted to know. Overall, Hector didn't think it was a good idea. "I think you should wait and get into parallel tracking with DDI," he told Corey, who took a deep breath, as though he were digesting this new idea. Everyone had been talking about this new drug, DDI, but this chapter, by the way, takes place in May of 1989. Had been talking about this new drug, DDI, at the meeting, Issy had noticed. Could this be the drug that was going to change everything? What if she lived? She sipped her soup and listened quietly to Hector and Corey go back and forth. There was a lot of new terminology she was learning tonight. Some folks had told her they didn't know jack shit about AIDS or science or the body or anything before they started coming to the meetings. And now, only a few months in, they could hold their own, read medical papers, follow a conversation. Maybe that would happen to her too. She already had dental knowledge, and at her dental hygienist job, she suffered intense guilt that she had told no colleagues she was infected, as well as terror that someone might somehow find out and she'd be fired, or worse, that she might somehow breathe into a patient's mouth and infect them. Ricky put his arm around her. She knew he was in his 20s, but he looked like he could be 12 with that little boy face. "How's your soup and sandwich, girl?" he asked her. She laughed. "It's fine. I didn't eat much today before. I was nervous about coming to the meeting." "Well, you came and you made a splash," he said. She liked Ricky. He reminded her of when you were flipping TV channels and came across an old musical set on a farm or something. That kind of guy. All American and smiley and wholesome, even though he had a punk haircut. The boys were getting up now and talking about going to dance at a bar called Boy Bar. She didn't think she'd ever been there with Tommy. Maybe it was new. "What are you going to do now?" Ricky asked her. She shrugged. "I guess I'm going to take the subway back to Queens." God, it was so stressful living with her family, hiding this from them. What if she started looking like Corey? How would she hide it then? "Come dance with us," Ricky said. She laughed. "Me? No, you guys go ahead." Corey put his arm around her. "Oh, honey, please. If I can go for a while, so can you."